Let's try that again. Good evening, everyone. My name is Emily Murase. I'm Executive Director of the San Francisco Department on the Status of Women, here to welcome you to our event marking the first day of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We have so many successes to report to you tonight. Actually, we need to move this a little bit downwards. Okay. First of all, before I introduce our speakers, I just want to recognize the domestic violence survivors among us. They deserve our continued support and applause. Next, I want to recognize frontline staff of our partner agencies and all of the folks here who work fighting domestic violence every day. Many of them are holding our signs. Let's show them our appreciation. Without further ado, please help me welcome our mayor, Mayor Edwin Lee, who in every year of his administration has invested greater amounts of public funding to combat violence against women and has been a true leader in this area. Please welcome Mayor Lee.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you for all the work you and the commission do for our city. I just want to say Anita wanted to be here, but she wants to give you her love and appreciation for all the work everybody does. This is our 20th anniversary and celebration of awareness, and it's serious business in our city. We have an impressive 44 months without a domestic violence homicide in our city. Impressive. And we had expressed how wonderful that feeling was just a year ago. And of course, this past year, we have had 3 homicides, domestic violence homicides in our city. This means, for us, not a case of failure, a case of more work that we have to do. And we are ready for this work. In fact, we're so ready. Emily said we have increased that budget every year. In fact, this year we increased it by $1.6 million for our domestic violence programs. And it's worth it. It's worth every penny of it. And I want to just thank every member of the Board of Supervisors who are standing up here with us. We work together as part of a city family, the police chief, our district attorney, our commission on the status of women, all of our friends in the community. The community agencies are so important for this to happen. And more, we are recognizing that immigrant groups, people who don't speak English as their first language, need more direct help in this arena. The education, the services, the advocacy. And we want to make sure that when we do have extra funds to put to programs, that we also reach all of our immigrant families and break every language barrier to make sure that our programs are reaching, our services are reaching. But the most important message, violence is not tolerated in this city. All forms of violence. It also means violence is not permitted in any of our sports and their families as well. Yes. And we will continue to ring solid and true on that. We continue to want to be the national model that everybody can follow, but we will also take care of local business. I very much appreciate a lot of faces that are standing up beside me here. Faces that I've seen for many years working on this very, very hard program, very hard topic, gut-wrenching topics. Every story you read can just wrench your emotions because they are wrong and they should never happen. But I also have hope. I see a lot of young faces, ones that hopefully we will be a part of their education. They'll adopt what we do here today. They'll look forward and they'll see not only 44 months, hopefully they see 44 years of no domestic violence. How about that for our kids in San Francisco? I also want to give a shout out to everybody who worked on this Justice and Courage panel that was started some 12 years ago, when we asked them to assemble, to go through all of the work that we haven't done, what we should do in the private sector, public sector, with city agencies, with nonprofits, with advocacy. And they came up with 121 recommendations for us. And I'm proud to say today that we have our final evaluation report for those 12 years of work that we've been doing to tackle these 121 recommendations. And this final report is part of the reflection of the work that we've been doing. But I want to say just a big, big thank you to everyone who's been working on that panel and everybody, all of us who are carrying out those recommendations all across in our education institutions, in our public safety departments and divisions, in our communities. Every aspect must be covered. And that has been a valuable report, an extremely important exercise for our city to do. And now we got to go forward and continue doing even more. So I join our board of supervisors, I join our DA, our police department, our fire department, all of the community agencies. Let's continue on the trek. Let's end domestic violence. Everybody's wearing the wonderful colors of purple to signify this moment. But let's keep this month every month of the year. No matter what sports we're celebrating, no matter where we are, let's speak to each other and say, end domestic violence for women and girls, and end violence everywhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I want to take a moment to recognize members of the elected family who are here with us today. Let's see, I saw Supervisor Katie Tang and Supervisor Malia Cohen. Supervisor David Campos is here with us. Are there other members? Supervisor Jane Kim, and I saw School Board Member Hydra Mendoza here with us as well. So really it takes a village to tackle this problem. You will see many placards around. These represent some of the 121 recommendations that were completed in our final report, which is available on our website, and you'll hear more about that. But next, please help me welcome Police Chief Greg Suhr, who has time and again shown his commitment to fighting violence against women. We are joined tonight by our first female president of the Police Commission, Susie Loftus, and many members of the Police Commission. Please help me welcome Police Chief Greg Suhr.
Thank you, Doctor. On every single marked police vehicle in the San Francisco Police Department, there is one bumper sticker. And on the back of every single car, as you see police vehicles driving around, it simply says, there is no excuse for domestic violence. Because there isn't. And much has been made in the national media about how come this happened or that happened. How about just no? There's no excuse, period, for domestic violence. And the San Francisco Police Department is a critical piece to that as we respond to any calls for domestic violence in San Francisco. As the mayor pointed out, we did enjoy a period of some 40-plus months where there were no domestic violence homicides in San Francisco. And now, having suffered 3, even though we're in a record low homicide year, almost 10%, or a little bit better actually than 10% of the homicides that have occurred in San Francisco have been domestic violence related. So to that end, we continue to provide lethality assessment training for police officers. We've increased our limited English proficiency training because we don't want somebody's inability to communicate in English to be any deterrent to reporting. We want to assure all survivors that San Francisco is a sanctuary city and that their status in the United States will never be called into question. They need to report because, again, there's no excuse for domestic violence upon anybody. Our Special Victims Unit continues to thrive. We've added 16 additional investigators to the Special Victims Unit just in calendar year 2014. And one of the things we're most proud of is because we think it works best here in San Francisco is we continue to have domestic violence advocates located within the Special Victims Unit. The Casa de las Madres celebrates their 10th anniversary this year, being emerged in our Special Victims Unit. Further, a big thing that's been coming out in the news, in fact, there was legislation signed today, but the department had committed to it earlier in the year. We are committed to clearing our rape kit backlog. In 2013, we did a 10-year audit, and and identified how many kits were in our backlog, and we've contracted with vendor labs to clear our entire backlog back 10 years by mid-2015. We initiated an ASAP protocol, which is the Sexual Assault Evidence Program, in January of this year, so there won't ever be a sexual assault kit backlog again. So again, I know there's other speakers. I don't want to take any more time. I got to keep saying it. We felt it was important enough to put a sticker on the cars. It sounds like a small gesture, but when it's the only one there, it speaks volumes to how committed we as a city, we as a police department, and how much we enjoy the partnership with everybody around us are committed to nobody ever being able to make an excuse for domestic violence. Thank you.
Please help me recognize members of the Police Commission and the Police Department. Next is our District Attorney, George Gascon, who has championed efforts to not only intervene but prevent acts of violence against women. He has some very exciting news to share. Please welcome District Attorney George Gascon.
You know, it's really exciting to see a sea of purple here today. But I'd like to, for a moment, all of us come together and in unison say, no more violence. Come on, no more violence. You know, still, 1 out of every 4 women in this country reports being the victim of domestic violence sometime in her life. So while we often get together, especially during this month, to celebrate the accomplishments and to talk about all the great things that we're doing, there is still a lot of work that needs to be done. And as the mayor indicated and the chief of police just said, this year, 3 homicides are related to domestic violence. And to me, that indicates that there is a lot of work that still needs to be done. You know, I want to thank the men and women of my office, especially those that are working in the domestic violence unit and the victim advocates. I also want to thank the Board of Supervisors and the mayor for the monetary support that we received last year in order to be able to beef up our resources. But above all, I want to thank all of our community partners that came together to support and ensure that the district attorney's office was going to be staffed appropriately in order to do the work. I can tell you that since we have added our resources, our conviction rate has significantly increased in these cases. But more importantly, and the area that we really wanted to really get in front of is getting victim services to the victims, to the survivors, very quickly. You know, most people think of the district attorney's office as the prosecutors, and clearly that is a major part of our work. But when it comes to domestic violence, actually we do a great deal of intervention. We provide support for survivors and families to make sure that they get restraining orders, to make sure that they deal with custody issues. We work with all of our partners to make sure that we get housing, that we get medical support, that we get psychological support, and above all, that we provide wraparound services our survivors in order to make sure to be able to move on with their life. You know, recently, we were just talking to some of the people that we work with and some of our survivors, and they were saying, we had one woman that said, you know, I was so afraid of going to court. And she walked in and she met one of our victim services counselors, and she says, you know, I felt all of a sudden like I was at home. And that makes the difference, not only in being able to begin the healing process, but also being able to hold the aggressors accountable. You know, we tell people that actually if we do our work well and we intervene earlier, we have an opportunity not only to prevent future acts of violence, but assuming that the family wants to stay together, we can actually help the family stay together. But when the cycle of violence goes on for years, and it usually does, by the way, if you do not intervene early on, it will increase in frequency and it will increase in the level of aggression. Sometimes by the time the police and we get there, there is very little that can be done. And unfortunately, that is not only bad for the family, it's bad for our community, it's bad for all of us. You know, I have saw this before, and I've used it. I'm stealing this word for someone else. But I heard once that if you engage in domestic violence in your home, you're almost guaranteeing that your sons will grow up to be abusers themselves and end up in jail. We need to work together to end the cycle of violence, and we need to get to the day where having this meetings and this commemoration would be a celebration of success, as opposed to still talking about 1 out of every 4 women being a victim of domestic violence in their life. I am really honored for the company that we have here today, but we have a lot of work to do, and I look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you.
Before I introduce my commissioner, I want to report that thanks to the leadership of Supervisor Eric Marr and Human Resources Director Mickey Callahan and her staff, every city employee will receive this brochure on recognizing the signs of domestic violence and the resources that are available later this month. Next, please help me welcome Commissioner on the Status of Women, Andrea Shorter, the most senior member of our commission, longtime activist on women's human rights issues, and chair of the Justice and Courage Oversight Panel. She's going to talk a little bit about our final report. Please welcome Commissioner Shorter.
Good evening, everyone. It is with great honor that I stand here today to not only represent our distinguished commission on the Status of Women, but certainly the Justice and Courage Oversight Panel. And let me tell you what tremendous work has been accomplished over the last several years. We know that in San Francisco, we are having not only local impact, as has been described by our mayor, by our police chief, and by our district attorney, but we know that we have impact beyond San Francisco. When you hear in the public discourse the term that we started with in San Francisco a few years ago, that domestic violence is not a private family matter, and you hear that now in the national news in reference to what is happening within the National Football League and other arenas, we know that we're having impact. So we want to applaud all of those persons that stand here with us today in unison to have even greater impact. This is actually the report. Now, you know, if it was up to me, I would read the whole report. But I won't do that. But I'm going to trust that each of you will get your hands on this report when it is in its fully bound form and review it and really appreciate the work that has gone into not the report itself, but the work that has gone into making the critical and necessary changes so that we have critical response to domestic violence in San Francisco. Let me just give you a few of those highlights, each of which is no important than the other. Each stands alone with great importance. One, we've been able to achieve greater accountability for domestic violence offenders and working with the probation department, the Domestic Violence Consortium, and others to achieve this end. We've expanded language access for limited English proficient domestic violence survivors. That means working collaboratively with the police department, the Department of Emergency Management, and making sure that we're able to respond and identify those bilingual officers who can provide critical response. We've significantly increased investment in services to women survivors of violence and their families. The city did provide increased funding for community-based domestic violence agencies with a particular focus on at-risk populations such as the LGBTQ, limited English proficient, and immigrant survivors. We've expanded training on domestic violence for criminal justice agencies and community partners. That means that we work in a very collaborative way for domestic violence cross-training, training over 437 criminal justice staff. That includes judges, that includes all other personnel that are working within our criminal justice system. We have also made sure that we have victim-responsive systems, working with the district attorney's office, to work with in their domestic violence unit, to deal with all misdemeanor and felony domestic violence cases. The courts have improved safety in the courtroom for domestic violence survivors, obtaining restraining orders by instituting wait periods for restrained parties to allow survivors time to leave the building. And last but not least of the points to be made, we've improved the tracking of domestic violence cases in the criminal justice system. There was a time when these cases could get shuffled and lost amongst the various codes and other caretaking of other issues. So working with the Department of Emergency Management, we created new 911 codes for domestic violence and stalking. And the medical examiner now tracks homicides and suicides related to domestic violence. Again, that gives you an outline, some highlights of what's been achieved over the last decade and then some. I want to, before concluding, acknowledge a couple of other persons that are not here with us today. But I want to acknowledge former Commissioner Dorka Keene, who stands as a giant on our particular commission and its legacy for being the first commissioner to lead the Justice and Courage, what was then the Justice and Courage Task Force. And so we really appreciate her vision and leadership and have done our best to carry on with the same type of vigor and sincerity and serious-mindedness that she did. So it's been an honor to chair this commission, or chair this particular panel. The Justice and Courage Panel Oversight Panel sought to honorably serve the legacy of Claire Joyce Timpango. People all over San Francisco, Bay Area, know her name and her story. Claire's death inspired our efforts, challenged us to do and be better as a community. And Claire Joyce Timpango will forever be synonymous with our will and proven ability to transform San Francisco's response to domestic violence and serve as an inspiration to communities beyond our Golden Gate Bridge. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Next, please help me welcome someone who represents the heart of this community, my dear friend, Beverly Upton, Executive Director of the Domestic Violence Consortium.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be with everybody today. This work goes on. It's difficult, but it goes on. What does it take to shine a light on domestic violence? What does a city have to have? Well, tonight we'll see that it's going to have City Hall lighted up purple. But what does it really have to have at its heart? It has to have leadership. It has to have justice, and it has to have advocacy. Leadership really starts at the top. And in San Francisco, it starts with Mayor Ed Lee and his team at City Hall, preventing and intervening and funding those of us who try to stop domestic violence. Thank you. David Chu and the Board of Supervisors, their door is always open to us. We meet with them year-round on legislation and budgetary issues, and their leadership shows every single day. Emily Murase, Dr. Murase, and the Department and the Commission on the Status of Women, Manoush Kandel, Andrea Shorter, Sharon Johnson, and many, many more, show the city every day that women count and that there is no excuse for domestic violence. Leadership in the community. When we see Rosalind C. Swig here today. Sissy Swig, as some of you know her, helped start a lot of the funding and organization in the community that helps fund the domestic violence communities today. So we want to thank all of these leaders for their leadership. Thank you. None of us would be here without you. And when we say justice, we don't just mean going to jail. We mean justice. We mean restoration. We mean healing. We mean justice for everyone. Justice takes a strong district attorney's office. George Gascon, whose team is here today, Liz Tarkey, Sam Toda, all the attorneys and advocates that make the families comfortable as they're going through what can be a long, long process. We work together every day, and the advocates at 850 Bryant from La Casa do an excellent job in helping everybody navigate that system. Greg Sir and the police department and the folks at SVU make the tough decisions and help every day. They save lives, they help the community heal, they help all of us stay connected. That's what part of the justice is. And the other part is probation, and we're going to hear from them today. And we look to probation to restore the victims, the offenders, and the community. So we work together as a team. And who is this for? Not only is it for all of us, but it's for the families. The families affected by domestic violence, whose loved ones who have been killed, battering partners in front of their children. We honor these families today that have suffered but also healed in San Francisco. Mrs. Timpongo is here with us today, and I want to thank you. And we honor your family for being with us through this long journey. Thank you so much. Aisha Lewis and the Lewis family are here, and we want to thank them for what has been a very long path, but I believe a healing one as well, as we all seek justice for their mom, Perla Lewis. And then our latest homicide was a woman named Mary Atchison. We have a friend, a family friend here today who will talk to you about Mary, and we're all beginning this process again with her family. So while we did go 44 months, we have 3 new homicides, and we have to take care of these families. We must take care of these children. And when we talk about taking care of folks, we talk about advocacy. That's the advocates in the DA's office and with the police department, and the advocates with district attorney's office, and the dedicated community-based advocates who answer the calls of survivors and their families 24 hours a day. For those of you who are working in shelters and crisis lines and legal services, today is your day. Today starts Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I am so honored to be here with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Beverly. Many of you will be familiar with Claire Joyce Timpongo, who was brutally murdered by her ex-boyfriend, Tari Ramirez. The case took many, many years to solve, and we're very fortunate to have Liz Aguilar-Tarkey from the District Attorney's Office, who prosecuted that case and really took it all the way up to the Supreme Court that affirmed the murder conviction. So next, we honor those we have lost to domestic violence. Please help me welcome Claire Timpongo, mother of Claire Joyce Timpongo, and then Nicole Phillips, friend of Mary Atchison, tragically the most recent victim of domestic violence in San Francisco. Claire.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
To all the guests here and the people who is supporting the domestic violence. I am Clara Timpongo, the mother of Claire Joyce Timpongo, who was killed by her ex-boyfriend 14 years ago in front of her children. Although our family will never recover from our loss, I am happy to tell you that my grandchildren, Claire Joyce's children, Justin and Janine, and my sons and daughter are all together and doing well. Through our sadness, we are very encouraged to see that many good changes have been occurring to San Francisco with the help of city government to make this a safer place and to help women like Claire. I want to thank all of you who have been so supportive of me and my family. Please help help us in using Claire's memory to help others and to eliminate domestic violence. No more violence, no more domestic violence. I am so happy that I am here and very, very thankful to all of you.
Next, we'll hear from Nicole Phillips.
Thank you very much. It's really an honor to be invited to stand here on the stage, although I wish I didn't have to stand here. Thank you for allowing us to commemorate Mary Atchison. I loved Mary for many reasons, but I think what I loved about her most was her strength, her smile that lighted up any room she would go into, and her commitment to having fun every day of her life. Mary was a quintessential San Francisco resident. She was a bike messenger in the dot-com boom. She grew beautiful flowers and other edibles in a communal plot in Bernal Heights. She worked downtown at Wiki Company. She has a degree from San Francisco State in zoology. We shared being big fans of San Francisco Giants and San Francisco 49ers. She was actually a very avid fan of both. Mary was found dead in her home on August 26th. The cause of death is blunt forced trauma. According to her neighbors, her boyfriend of 12 years, who she lived with, they would hear her boyfriend slamming her up against the wall during arguments. I had no idea of any of this violence. Mary did not confide with her friends in the violence that was happening. Though I never loved Jules, I never knew that this was happening. A group of us attend every court hearing for Jules. He has been accused of homicide. And we are thankful to the San Francisco Domestic Violence Consortium for also being there and to help this community. One of our friends has said that following this process, this judicial process, is the most painful thing she will ever do in her life. I am a human rights lawyer. Usually this kind of thing is a professional thing for me, not a personal thing. I've been living and working in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. I work for an organization that represents victims of violence, and we help prosecute cases just like this case. Unfortunately there, the judiciary and the law enforcement don't have the political will to pursue cases like this. And we are grateful that San Francisco City and County does. I'm grateful to Mayor Ed Lee for his leadership in making San Francisco a domestic violence-free city. I'm grateful to District Attorney George Gascon for his excellent team of domestic violence attorneys, including Assistant District Attorney Sam Topa, and the investigators. Although San Francisco is probably not perfect, because nothing is, I can tell you how important having the presence of good law enforcement is to eradicating domestic violence. But the courts and the law enforcement cannot do all of the work. This is our problem. Each and every one of us here has either been a victim of domestic violence or knows somebody that has. So it's up to us, San Francisco residents, employees, business owners, journalists, thank you all for being here, to cover this story and to help and to come together and mobilize. Whether it's supporting organizations like the San Francisco Domestic Violence Consortium financially or through hours, or a children's center, or whatever you're passionate about. Service will for sure improve your life, as well as the lives of everybody you serve. Thank you again for being here, for paying attention to this, and thank you to Mary for her inspiration.
Thank you so much, Nicole. And we also honor the memory of Perla Lewis and her family who are here, as Beverly mentioned. Next, we'll be hearing from Adult Probation Division Director Crystal Tullock, who is here on behalf of Adult Probation Chief Wendy Still. Please help me welcome Crystal Tullock.
Good evening. On behalf of Chief Adult Probation Officer Wendy Still, thank you for inviting adult probation to participate in this event marking San Francisco's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. The mission statement of San Francisco Adult Probation is protecting the community, serving justice, and changing lives. And we emphasize changing lives because over the past 5 years, with the vision and drive of Chief Still, adult probation has been elevated as being a nationally and internationally recognized model of how to build a criminal justice service delivery system that is evidence-based, family-focused, gender-responsive, and trauma-informed. We emphasize changing lives by conducting risk and needs assessments to build meaningful supervision plans. We emphasize changing lives by providing services that are gender-specific. We emphasize changing lives by being family-focused and recognizing that we could help to end intergenerational criminality by helping one member of the family system to change their lives. We emphasize changing lives by being trauma-informed when offering resources and referrals to perpetrators, referrals to victims of domestic violence, and ensuring their perpetrators are being held accountable and actively participating in certified domestic violence programs. Domestic violence thrives on secrecy, denial, and complacency. It is against the common values of basic human rights. We stand with the men, women, and children that are victims and survivors of domestic violence. We stand with our community justice partners, victims advocates, and the community to bring to light the issue of domestic violence in order to keep it out of the shadows. We stand with you to help victims find a voice, safety, and shelter. Adult probation stands with you to foster a culture of justice and support for the victims and survivors of domestic violence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Crystal. Our last speaker tonight before a closing healing song is Board of Supervisors President David Chu, a true advocate in the fight against domestic violence, who even before he was elected supervisor, served for many years on the Partnership to End Domestic Abuse Board of Directors. Please help me welcome President Chu.
Thank you, Dr. Morase. And I want to thank all of you who are here tonight representing the beautiful diversity that is San Francisco. We are Asian, we are Latino, we are white, we are black, and tonight we stand together wearing the color purple, a color that represents the bruises that we all want to see ended someday. I'm proud to be here representing our San Francisco Board of Supervisors. Our board, we have stood with you, with our community, to make sure that we have programs that are funded where they need to be, to make sure that we have our policies where they need to be. And I want to take a moment. I know that Claire Joyce Tempongo's mother is with us today. And Clara, what happened 14 years ago, I know is something that we all mourn every day, everyone who is here. But you know that your daughter and your family name has galvanized a movement, the movement that is represented by every man and woman who is here today. I want to thank all of the amazing advocates and the city leaders who over the past 14 years have moved forward the 121 recommendations that we've adopted. But we know we can do better. When the statistic is, if you look to your left and look to your right, 1 out of 3, we know we can do better. For Mary Atchison, we know we could do better. For Mary Freeman, we know we could do better. For my good friend Ruby Gim, we know we could do better. And so I want to thank all of you for being here tonight, for helping to shine a light, for being part of our city of San Francisco. We are the city that revolutionized what love is about, from the summer of love to marriage equality. And I truly believe that someday we are going to lead the revolution. We're going to lead the revolution to make sure that it's not just 44 months or 44 years. We will have a time period when no one is murdered again for domestic violence. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you so much. I understand Claire Joyce Tempongo's daughter Janine is here. Please join us. Please join your grandmother. I just want to acknowledge a couple of other folks. Sharon Johnson was the first executive director of our Department on the Status of Women. Sharon's here with us tonight. So to present our final closing healing song, please help me welcome Emma Jean Foster, a member of the Glide Memorial Church Choir. Emma Jean.
I'm going to sing a song that I wrote while on the parking lot at Trader Joe's as a security guard. And it's a metaphor for life in general, not just for people trying to park their cars. Okay. Take that space, it's got your name on it. It's got your name on it. It's got your name on it. Go on now, take that space, it's got your name on it. Right now, it's yours to claim. Now, don't steer yourself into hopelessness. Don't drive yourself insane. You've got to move ahead with confidence, but you gotta do it in your daddy's name. Go on now, take that space, has got your name on it. It's got your name on it. It's got your name on it. Go on now, take that space, has got your name on it. Right now it's yours to claim. Now it's all right to be more assertive, and it's okay to love yourself. But you can be a little more positive, love and respect everybody else. Go on now, take that space, it's got your name on it. It's got your name on it. It's got your name on it. Go on now, take that space, it's got your name on it. Right now, it's yours to claim. Come on, sing with me now. Go on now, take that space, it's got your name on it. It's got your name on it. It's got your name on it. Go on now, take that space, it's got your name on it. Right now, it's yours to claim. Thank you. They asked me to do 2 songs, so I'm going to sing something that's more familiar with everybody. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let no violence turn me around. Oh no, turn me around. Turn me around. Ain't gonna let no violence turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Come on, y'all know this song. Say it. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Thank you.
Another round of applause for Emma Jean Foster. In closing, I just want to thank the Mayor's Office, in particular Deputy Chief of Staff for Public Safety Paul Henderson and Director of Violence Prevention Diana Oliva Aroche, the Domestic Violence Consortium Beverly Upton and her crew, and my amazing staff, especially Policy Director Manoush Kandel and Policy Fellow Allison Ibsen for their tireless efforts to make tonight's event happen. Please admire our City Hall lit purple. Thank you all for coming out tonight. See you same time next year.